am the Swarm. Vengeance shall be mine.
Ladies and gents, welcome back to AusGamers. You are here once again with Stephen Farrelly. I've got a man who I continually say needs no introduction, but we've got Mr. Dustin Browder out here. He came all the way out here for the StarCraft II Heart of the Swarm launch, which we were a part of last night in the crowd sense. You, however, on stage, got to see all these like fervent fans like getting right into it. Pretty hot night as well. Lots of passers-by. Like, what was that like for you?
It was just an absolutely incredible event. We had so much fun. We love doing these, right? We've had a chance to go all over the world. I've been dying to come to Australia for many, many years, and we finally got the chance to come down here. I did, at least, and Luke, and come down here and see what's going on. And it was just a blast to meet with all these fans. You know, we know we've got passionate fans in every corner of the planet, right? And it was so much fun to come and meet with these guys and see the passion they have for Blizzard games and see the passion they had for StarCraft, and to get to celebrate that with them, the launch of Heart of the Swarm. It was very cool.
Oh, I was speaking to Moonglade just before, and one of the things he was talking about in Australia especially is esports exposure really needs to kind of ramp up. And last night it was a really good experiment, I think, because you know you've got this Federation Square's like a really big kind of just route for people to go to, and you've got this big screen, and you had passers-by coming, and each time they would stop and go, "What's that? What's going on?" But then you'd hear the crowd roar because someone had rushed or something like that. So, I mean, for you guys, it must be cool to kind of see something being nurtured like that slowly and surely and kind of creeping up, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think, you know, you're seeing a huge amount of growth in esports all over the world, but there's lots going on in here, you know, in Australia and New Zealand, which is really exciting to see. It's really cool to see that sort of, you know, coming together, as it really is coming together in many, many places. And so, yeah, it was really fun to be at this event. And like you said, it was a hot night. It was a glorious night. You know, everybody was having such a great time. It was really fun.
Now, while we do this, actually speak, it's still launching globally around the world. What's the feedback so far? Have you been in touch with the office at all, or?
Well, right now we're really worried about you know, things. Is the stream working correctly? Are the servers up and running at the proper levels? We're not at the stage yet. We're really collecting a lot of, you know, sort of balance feedback or campaign feedback. That's going to be in the next week as players sort of really get through the experience. Right now we're really just focused on the stability and the functioning of both the launch of the actual software and the simultaneously sort of stability and functioning of our stream and all the other, you know, events. We've got events going all over the place, and each one of those is going to be the best event that we can possibly do. I mean, they're always going to have things we can do better, but we really are sort of fighting for every inch of ground, trying to make sure that every event is as cool as it can possibly be. And so that's everybody's focus right now. We got multiple war rooms going on right now at HQ that are, you know, 24/7 at this point. People are sleeping. I'll put that in quotes, sleeping at the office, because they're probably getting 20-minute cat naps between going to make sure and watching the streams and then sending out notes. Hey, guys, you know, there's a problem with the audio. Fix it right now, and that kind of stuff. And then obviously our tech guys are watching this launch, you know, very, very carefully, you know, to make sure that there's no technical problems for any of our fans, so that when they get to a midnight launch, they can go out and they can play it, that everything works, that it's all available, that it's all happening.
When I spoke to you in January, like we were saying, you're on the home stretch. Now that you're here, is like, I mean, what's next? Where are you guys running to? Obviously, it's, you know, tracking this for the next week or so and making sure that everything's running smoothly. But is it big downtime time for you guys, or? No,
there's never really a downtime for us at this point. You know, we're working on a game that's live. We got a live game. We've got, you know, Legacy of the Void to be working on at the same time. But there was one point I remember working on before Christmas of this year, where I'd have guys come to me and say, "Hey, we've got a balance problem, you know, with the Terrans," and I'd say, "In which game? Is that in the live game? Is that in the beta? Or do you think that's in the final version of Heart of the Swarm?" We had almost 3 games sort of going at once, right, that we were talking about, because we had both we had multiple patches sometimes in the queue. Like, it was absolutely insane, because now we're more like a television show. There's always something going on. There's always something to be produced. We've got something that's out there in front of the community, and we've got next season's episodes coming, right? And so it's just always going at this point. We're sort of nonstop. So what's next for us is we'll do, obviously, this sort of more technical stuff here in the next, you know, days, hopefully just even the next 24, 36 hours, and we'll see that everything's sort of launched successfully. Then we'll get a bunch of feedback from a suddenly huge number of fans that are coming on board. Obviously, we had a beta, but we're going to get thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of more eyeballs immediately on this product. So they'll be giving us a bunch of feedback about how our UI is actually functioning, what's clear, what's unclear, what's good, what's not good. So we'll look at that really hard and say, what do we have to fix? What can we fix? You know, when do we fix these things? What do those patches look like? And so we'll have probably some short-term and some slightly longer-term patches, you know, for that. And then after that, we start collecting feedback on, you know, the quality of the campaign, which will feed directly into what we do in Legacy of the Void. You know, and at the same time, we're also watching everything that's going on in esports. You know, we'll be looking for, you know, a series of games that proves to us we have a problem, or sometimes there's a single seismic event, a single game that we can look at and go, that's a problem. Right. You know, that Terran player had no options there. We don't think he made a mistake. We saw the Protoss player mess up 3 times that were significant, and he still won, right? And that's hugely significant for us. So we'll be watching every esport event we can get our eyes on to see that, is there a series of small things that makes us think we should want to change, or is there, you know, a couple of big moments where we go, oh, that's a problem, and we'll be looking to patch, you know, deal with any issues like that come up.
You mentioned beta, and the game's been out in beta, and you've been getting lots and lots of feedback for that. Just like a curiosity, in your experience, like, what's the differential between like the beta guys that are playing and giving you that feedback versus a game being out in the wild for like 3 months, and then you're getting feedback from players that, you know, might dabble, wouldn't be so hardcore to jump into a beta, or then you might get guys that just didn't have time to be in the beta, and then they're finding stuff that no one else found. Like, is there a big differentiator there? Or
there's a big difference in the number of volume of play, right? And that develops a metagame, I think, a little bit more quickly and efficiently when you have more players. But you have to be careful with, you know, terms like not hardcore enough, right? Because we've got guys who play thousands of games that are just bronze players, right? So there's no necessarily equivalent between skill and how hardcore you are. We have some very hardcore players that aren't the best players in the world, right? And we have some players obviously that are very hardcore and are the best players in the world. So we get a wide variety of feedback in the beta, which is hugely useful from the Bronze to Grandmaster level players, which is hugely valuable for us. But the metagame will settle down, I think, a lot more in the next few weeks and months, and we'll get a better idea of where that's headed. At the same time, we'll get a lot more esports influx. I mean, Wings of Liberty was still going on throughout much of the beta, and a lot of the pros, they really just didn't have time to give us their full attention on the beta. You know, these guys they get paid to win games of StarCraft, and there wasn't a lot going on in Heart of the Swarm. They were still getting paid for Wings of Liberty, so they needed to play Wings of Liberty. That was their job, right? And so now we're really getting to a point where now they have the option to get paid to play Heart of the Swarm. So now we're going to get a lot more influx of a lot of these pro guys coming in and really hammering on it, and we'll get to watch a lot of those games. And so I think that's going to be a huge benefit for us going forward.
Going forward, when does production ramp up in full swing on Void? Like,
Legacy of the Void. So we're going to do it in stages. We've already started work on story, and we've already started work on mission development. So those teams have been able to finish up with Heart of the Swarm. They get locked out earlier because of localization, because of all of the language translations that have to happen. At some point, we have to say, okay, you guys are done. You're out of the pool, right? And so the minute they were out of the pool, they started immediately working on Legacy of the Void. So some work has already begun, and then as other teams transition off their responsibilities towards Heart of the Swarm, we can begin, you know, more aggressive work on Legacy of the Void. Now, in terms of like multiplayer, we're going to wait a little longer before we really start working on multi, because we need to evaluate Swarm to really get a good idea. So that's going to be 4 to 6 months, I would say, before we begin that in really serious earnest. But we'll get some ideas before then. We just don't know which ones we're going to like, right, until we see more information about Swarm.
Did you jump on last night after everything had wrapped up?
I did not. Last night, after I finished signing, I think it must have been, you know, 1,000 or 1,500 boxes for people. We signed so many boxes for so many fans who came out to see the event. I just staggered off home and crashed. But yeah, absolutely cool event.
So when will you be jumping online?
Well, I'm going to be here in Australia for quite a while. I had a chance to come down here. I've got my family with me, and so we're going to check out the country. We're going to check out New Zealand, and so I've got a couple of weeks of that before I really get a chance to go back and play for real.
I mean, I think it's a well-deserved holiday. Obviously, you guys have been working really hard on it. Can you leave us with something? And I mean, the last 2 games, well, the first game and now this expansion have kind of had a bit of a theme going on in each. Is there a specific theme you can just throw at me that we can expect with Void?
Oh, absolutely. So, Wings of Liberty is Jim Raynor. He's the space cowboy. He's the good guy versus the bad guy, and he can always kind of get it done. He can always do the right thing, and yeah, he's got problems. He's got kind of a dark past. He's a little bit haunted, but he is the gunslinger, right? He is a man of myth and legend who can always walk off into the sunset with the girl. That's who he is. This is the second chapter is our dark chapter of the series. This is our middle dark moment where you're looking at Kerrigan, and she is not in a position where she gets to always make the happy choices. She often has to make the very difficult choices. Am I going to survive and do something terrible? Or am I going to let them kill me? Right? And that's sort of where she, the kinds of choices that she has to make. So she has a much more difficult job than Jim. In many ways, Jim is very naive about the world that Kerrigan lives in. And then for Legacy of the Void, the only thing I can say at this point is think that's more as Seven Samurai. Right? This is the Protoss on their last legs, in their final hours, fighting against the darkness that threatens to consume the universe, right? And they are the only ones who can stand up to the forces that are arrayed against them. They are the proud few warriors facing the void, facing oblivion on their own, and slowly being picked off one by one. And that's what we're going to try to get across in Legacy of the Void, that real sense of doom, and really give you the sense of what it's like to be this race with this long and amazing and glorious traditions slowly being consumed and snuffed out.
Right. That sounds very ominous. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Dustin. Thanks for coming out to Australia. I know our fans are really excited, and your fans are even more excited. So, yeah, great, awesome. Cheers. Thank you.